Our buddy John McLaughlin. It is time for another Warrior Wednesday, and we're being joined by a young man down in Phoenix, Arizona, Eli Pagunsan, and he had quite an event that went through his life when he was just 14 years old in Riverside, California. And from then till now, we're going to briefly tell his story of the dangers of red flag laws. So Eli, I'm just going to pitch it to you. You're a 14-year-old, you're in school, you're going through a lot of, family stuff, some depression, and the next thing you know, you have law enforcement wanting to look through your house and personal stuff. So how did we get to that point?
So, as you said, I was actually abused growing up, and I'm not going to give the gory details. Lee did a
Right.
great job in the article, if you can link that. Um, but basically, I happened to tick off a bunch of indicators, red flag indicators, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
that I was somebody who liked spending time alone at the library. I was someone who spent a lot of time writing. I was actually in a local screenwriter group at the time. uh, I liked guns. I actually was doing research on guns because at the time I was writing zombie apocalypse fiction and I wanted it to be accurate. I think I had a few military field manuals as well. I'm thinking of like what else I had in there, but I had a lot of notes in there. Anyway, Riverside County Sheriff's Office, one of their deputies told me that my room was going to be searched under the Kids with Guns protocol. My mom, and I know this is going to sound kind of like a weird tangent. My mom is actually a someone who lived during the Marcos presidency, the
Mm-hmm.
Ferdinand Marcos presidency,
Sure.
and in general, the general attitude was don't mess around with the cops, or they'll just shoot you in the head and accuse you of being a communist.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to, get anybody upset with their political leanings, but like, uh, the reason I say that is because that's how his regime operated. His three-term regime operated was literally if you even had a sniff or even a suspicion of being a communist, you were generally just either disappeared or found in the river shot by the local police. So my mom, being afraid of the consequences of not letting the police in, mind you, this is a first-generation immigrant. She arrived in '92. She didn't know any better. Uh, let the cops in. I begged her, hey, you have the Fourth Amendment right. You can just say no and we can get a lawyer and get this all over with. I knew about all this stuff because I was a police explorer at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
So that program you're talking about now, they call it the STAR protocol, I believe. And it usually is somebody has to make a complaint or some, you know, at least saying there was a threat or they believe there's a threat. So
yes,
how did they come across you? Was it through school or somebody
I
else?
it was it
Any
was it
idea?
was it was someone at the school. I was having a really bad time. I have like a lot of issues. I got anxiety. I got post traumatic stress disorder from my dad stripping me naked and beating me.
Mm-hmm.
There is And then on top of that, I was always getting harassed because I was a Filipino kid in a predominantly Hispanic area. So at some point, this stress all boiled over, and I had an emotional breakdown. I said something, I don't remember what, but that's what caused the ball to get rolling down that hill, and that's why I got a call that night from a Riverside County deputy saying, "Do you plan on shooting up the school tomorrow?" And I didn't know how to respond, so I passed the phone to my mom because I was so scared. I was so
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, and I felt like no one had been listening to me. I had actually written letters to the school about how much I was being hassled, but no one listened in that moment.
So you think, looking at what they were looking at, that it was a good thing that they investigated. That part was okay, and after that, what happened and kind of how you've been persecuted since then is wrong, or how would you kind of balance all that?
Sure. So I didn't mind that they tried to check on me. What got me was how they tore apart my room. They tore apart my notes. They were writing down what they saw. They jotted down the fact that I played video games. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine a child playing video games in this day and age?
Mm-hmm.
Violent video games in this day and age at that?
Yeah.
How dare I? I'm sorry.
Well, my kids played Call of Duty. I know what you're talking about.
Future terrorists, you better watch out for them.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's it's it was one thing for them to investigate, but it's another thing for them to say that because I play video games, because I spend a lot of time alone, because I spend a lot of time reading, because I don't have many friends, that makes me a future school shooter. That makes me the next Osama bin Laden or Tsarnaev.
Hmm.
That's not right.
So after this process, what happened? Was there some kind of disciplinary action, or were you just, get some counseling? Kind of what
I
happened?
was I was expelled, but from this particular school because they didn't want to deal with me. We actually showed them the notes that I wrote to the school,
Hmm.
and they just had to brush it under the rug. Is from what I could gather. Um, but the problem was after that, this followed me around. I'd walk somewhere and I'd get like, "Hey guys, that's the future school shooter kid," And this went on until college. I was in community
Wow.
college, and I'd always get like guys going, "Hey, if you shoot up the school, can you let me know about it? Hey, can you tell hey, can you tell me first?" And this would be repeated. It's why I got out of California. Even at my job, I was working as a Toyota technician. I had guys like, "Hey, if anyone shoots up work, it's going to be Eli over here.
Hmm.
If anyone does
Wow.
anything, it's going to be Eli." And it just became like I was a wreck because of this. This I was constantly having like these identity crises where is this going to be me? Is this what I'm going? Is this what I'm destined to be? Because everyone thinks that of me,
Hmm.
and I just got out. It
So,
wasn't a healthy experience.
right. Talk to me about healing from that. Did you get some, significant, like emotional support about post traumatic stress or faith, or how did you kind of work your way through all this?
Oh boy. So at first I tried to compartmentalize everything, like
Hmm. That doesn't work
and
too well, did it?
then like when that didn't work, it turned into I'm going to drink to bury the pain. And
Mm,
I'm being completely honest and
right.
genuine about this. Like I tried to drink to deal with the pain, and then at some point I had to look myself in the mirror and go, I don't want to be an alcoholic wreck that offs themselves at 19.
Hmm.
It's not that's not worth it. So I actually did get therapy,
Good.
and I didn't acknowledge that it was wrong, that what had happened to me was wrong until I went to a Second Amendment Foundation event, gun rights policy conference 2019.
Mhm.
I told a lawyer about it. He's just like, "What did you just tell me?" Yeah, it's normal, right? I got told that it happens to all the other kids. He looks at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, "Oh, oh, that was wrong."
Yeah, there's tons of research. If you haven't like looked up Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, he did a lot of research on PTS, and just
I'm not
getting that verification that what you went through is not unusual, and it's not
if
it's really not your fault, and there's a path forward past that. So I hope
I'm
that's the
gonna
point you're getting at.
I'm gonna contradict you there. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Part of Grossman's studies is, I'd say, why I got red flagged. A lot of these guys
Well,
correlated.
yeah, the video game thing I was going to leave out.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Is like that's
Right.
the thing. A lot of what he correlated is why I got messed up by
Hmm.
that. And I'm not
Okay, well
trying to
that's
be
that's
rude.
really interesting to bring up.
And I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm saying
No,
this as
absolutely not.
somebody who grew up with this. A lot of these guys, and I've done lots of research into this. This has actually helped my healing. It's weird. I know.
Mhm.
Just hear me out. It's like,
No.
um, a lot of these school shooters. Great example, Nicholas Cruz. That guy had 46 calls to law enforcement that they didn't answer. The FBI knew about him. Tampa and Orlando FBI offices knew of what he was going to do. The two Columbine shooters, everyone knew they were going to do it,
Right.
or at least had an idea they were going to do it, but no one knew how to convey that in a way that made sense. Like everyone knew that they were making pipe bombs and verbalizing these threats. Oh, we're going to blow up the school. I hope you guys aren't there tomorrow. Nick Cruz went on video and said, I am going to be Parkland, Florida's next school shooter.
Hmm.
And it's like, is that not what we call probable cause within the law enforcement and legal community? If I walk around with a can of gasoline and a lighter and say I'm going to burn this to the ground, are you not going to take that a little seriously? That's the point that I'm trying to make. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get heated there.
No, that's fine. And it's good to like I said, my kids played Call of Duty, and they're not they're perfectly normal kids right now that shoot guns all the time. So talk to me about finding that fine line between where folks think there's a threat and where like some of the things we don't even mention the name of these past school shooters because I don't want to give
My
them
bad. I'm
any
sorry.
publicity. But
I'm
I
sorry.
get what you're saying. But
I was just citing examples.
yep,
My bad.
absolutely. But talk to me about that fine line and between getting folks like you that weren't going to do anything and the folks like you just mentioned that there was a clear pattern that you could substantiate.
Well, the thing is like people like me, and there's a lot of people like me these days, especially with 2 years of being locked inside. A lot of those issues are going to be exacerbated. And a lot of these
Hmm.
guys just need help.
Hmm.
I actually last year went to my friend's funeral. He committed suicide, OD, and I just wished he'd have reached out or said something, but he was just so afraid to because of the stigma that is attached to mental health these
Hmm.
days. Like you can get the flu, you can get you can get a brain tumor, but like you say that, hey, I'm not feeling too good. I go through every day and it feels like the same. It just feels the same, and there's no joy out of it.
Hmm.
A lot of guys, me included, like will just say, "All right, get over yourself. You'll be fine." But it's like there should be a bigger push to encourage people to that there should be a lesser stigma. And I say this with especially guys that I grew up with that were or guys that I know who are combat veterans. There's a big stigma in that community to get help from what I've been able to see. And removing that stigma is a totally different thing than this dude's been saying the same thing. He's had a straight plan for the better half of a year. I think he's just joking though.
Hmm.
And he has the ability to carry out that plan. In the state of Arizona, like if you get help uh, you, and you say, "Hey, I'm feeling suicidal," normally the thing is, "Okay, how do you feel? Are you conscious right now? And do you have a plan in place and the ability to carry out that plan?"
Hmm.
I think that's the difference. I'm sorry for going on such a.
What you mentioned is good about reaching out, and that's something in the 2A community we probably need to be more aware of. Talked about firearms. I recently had some friends going through some tough stuff, and they called and said, "Hey, would you hang on my pistol for a while till all this, divorce stuff and all that's over?" So, locked it up and kept it for them. So there's no shame in saying how you feel and getting whatever appropriate help you need at the time.
I think that's just a men thing as well. And I'm not trying to be sexist or nothing like that. I'm just saying I think that's a men thing as well. Like in a lot of Asian culture, it's kind of frowned upon to be like, "Hey, I'm kind of going through this, that, and the other." And I think that's a little bit of the case with certain households as well. I don't.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to go on that tangent, but I felt it was relevant.
So you've gone through this horrible experience. Now you're a 2A supporter. You got a good job. You're doing security work. Just kind of tell me about where you are now and what you're doing to help others that maybe kind of set up in the same kind of situation you were in about 8 years ago or so.
Um, when these situations happen, and every so often, like I can't be there when it happens, of course. That's. But I'll normally hear these stories about, hey, I got investigated when I was like 14. The cops searched my room and they were trying to find every reason possible to pin me as the next mass killer.
Hmm.
And I always ask them is like, did you happen to contact an attorney? And they always tell me is like, no, we didn't. But in terms of parents, I think they should have the strength to say, no, I don't want you searching my son or daughter's room. I don't see why this is necessary. Come back with a warrant, please.
Yeah, typically in these events, they'll go to a magistrate or do something, not just come in on their own. So I'm assuming nothing like that happened to you. They just were there and started searching.
They knocked. They said, well, it's going to be a few minutes. Oh, we just want to look around, make sure he's not. We're just going to look into the drawers, just, make sure he doesn't have a gun or anything. You don't have any firearms
Hmm.
on property, do you? Oh, no, nothing like that. We're not that kind of household. This, that, and the other. But uh, no, they didn't get a warrant. It was a permission.
Okay. Well, tell me where you're at now and how you've moved on and are promoting the Second Amendment.
Um, as you can tell by my
Yeah.
stickers,
Right.
I'm very pro moms demand action.
Hmm.
Um, I'm very anti-gun. You know, like
Yeah, I
what
can
kind of
tell. All right.
yeah.
You have that big red
Uh,
GOA sticker there, just says
oh
it all,
yeah,
right?
for sure. This is my undercover personality.
Right.
Uh, no, I actually one of the best experiences I had last month. Now that you're asking that, was sitting in the car with my mom, and this is related. Don't worry. Um, and she goes, "Hey Eli, yeah, can you take me to the range? Who are
There
you,
you
and what have you done with my mom?"
Right.
It's just like because my mom is just like always like this very anti. She's very like left leaning, but like she started off
Mm.
as anti-gun. She's like, no, I just want to experience it because you seem to know what you're doing.
Education
Okay,
is key.
okay, sure. So we took her to the range. I had to call a favor into a buddy of mine to bring his 22 pistol over, and she was at the range for an hour, and she's just like, people here are extremely polite.
Mhm.
It's like I thought people here were gonna be like, okay, corral shooting each other. You know, Arizona's the state of Tombstone. You know, I'm
Right.
like, no, 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 no. And she's just like watching me and my other friends shoot, and she was very astounded as to like how safety conscious I was, how careful I was. She accidentally flagged me at one point, and I yelled at her. And she's like, don't point a gun at me."
Yep.
Oh,
Downrange.
oh, my bad. Because she got really excited 'cause she nailed like one on the X at 15
Hmm.
yards with a pistol, and I was like, no, 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 don't point that thing at me. That goes right there. Face it towards the target. Okay, cool. So she got a really good experience, and then after that, last week I actually taught my brothers the basics of running pistols, shotguns, and ARs.
Good. So you mentioned you're involved with the Second Amendment Foundation. Is that right?
I used to be when it came to
Okay.
2A gaming. I helped them out with a few of the organizational things, and I was genuinely passionate about a lot of it. And then the state of California made it illegal to advertise firearms to minors.
Mm.
So,
So one thing you mentioned before we hit the record button was being able to take those that are interested in the gaming and actually teach them safety, teach them proper, range
mhm,
etiquette and firearms
mhm.
safety. Sounds like that's something you'd be passionate about.
That's genuinely the most fun thing I do is just like watching a first time shooter go from hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to get the camera angle just right.
Right.
Go from like this to this. Oh, and then like seeing that like first time smile.
Hmm.
I took one of my Cali friends out here to Arizona shooting, and like he held an AR for the first time. He's doing this. His ear pro wasn't all that great.
Right.
He fires like 3 rounds, and he's like, "Wow, this thing feels really cool." That is a feeling that I think the only time I felt a similar feeling was catching the 36-inch halibut in Alaska.
Oh, there you go. A fisherman, a man after my own heart. So
Dude, oh, I
important
caught
thing
two.
here that you've mentioned, the Second Amendment is not really a conservative or liberal thing. It's something for everyone. So the more people you can expose, you talked about bringing your mom to the range. That's all good stuff because the more they understand, the more they'll understand about our passion for protecting the Second Amendment.
Yeah, and after I showed it to my mom and we sat there like at a Red Robin, 45 minutes later, she asked us about like the different things that go into the function of a firearm. Hey, how does this work?
Hmm.
How does, how do I buy a firearm in the state of California? And I said, I don't know. My
Right,
knowledge
exactly.
is dated by now.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. If folks want to learn more about you, do you have social media, Facebook, any of that stuff to kind of track what you're doing in the 2A world?
Yes, I do. My Twitter is at Eli Pagunsan, uh,
Hmm.
all one word. My Twitter is Donnie Donny, the writer guy.
Okay.
That is my Instagram, and those are the two main social media I use. But you'll mainly see graphic novel updates on there.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you sharing a bit of your story and certainly, uh, feel sorry for what you've been through and just encourage you to stay in the fight, so to speak, and keep focusing on the positive and, be one of those guys we're going to look at in 10 years and like, wow, look what Eli did in the Second Amendment. So good for you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.